Captain George Harris had seen countless shipwrecks, but today's sonar readings were different. Deep beneath the waves, their underwater robot revealed something unusual, a pristine shipping container that shouldn't be there. As the heavy doors finally swung open, the entire crew stepped back in shock. What they discovered inside the container would change their lives forever. But before we start our story, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any new stories. The Northern Star was one of the most advanced research vessels in the Pacific. For the past decade, it had been mapping illegal dump sites and tracking environmental damage across the ocean floor. Its crew of 20 combined scientific expertise with years of maritime experience, making them the go-to team for underwater investigation. The ship's pride was its state-of-the-art sonar system and remote-operated vehicle, an underwater drone capable of reaching depths most equipment couldn't handle. The team had discovered everything from illegal waste dumps to forgotten shipwrecks. Each mission added to their database of ocean floor mapping, helping protect marine environments from human interference. Captain George Harris had assembled this crew himself. Dr. Chen, their chief researcher, was a world expert in marine acoustics. Sarah Martinez handled the underwater drone operations with unmatched precision. The rest of the team brought their own specialties, from marine biology to deep-sea engineering. Today's mission was supposed to be routine, investigating potential illegal dumping in international waters. The crew had done this hundreds of times before. They would scan the area, document any findings, and report to environmental authorities if necessary. But as the vast ocean stretched before the Northern Star that morning, something felt different. The sun glinted off the calm waters, but Captain Harris couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something unusual. After 15 years of marine research, he had learned to trust his instincts. The sonar equipment beeped steadily, mapping the ocean floor below. The readings coming through weren't normal. Strange vibrations emerged from the depths, patterns that shouldn't exist in this part of the ocean. George adjusted the equipment settings, double-checking the calibration. The anomaly remained. He called Dr. Chen to verify the readings. His expression grew serious as he studied the data. The team gathered in the control room, discussing their next move. They had encountered illegal dump sites before, everything from industrial waste to old military equipment. But this signature was unlike anything in their database. Could this be something more sinister than their usual environmental crimes? The decision was made. They would deploy their advanced underwater drone to investigate. Sarah took her position at the drone controls, her experienced hands guiding the robotic vehicle through the dark waters. The powerful lights illuminated the descent as the team watched the live feed intently. At 200 meters, the drone's cameras captured something unexpected. A shipping container sat upright on the ocean floor. But unlike the usual debris they found, this container showed no signs of rust or deterioration. Its surfaces were clean, almost new. The team exchanged worried glances. Something wasn't right. Dr. Chen directed the drone closer. The container's pristine condition made no sense. At this depth, marine growth should have started claiming the metal surfaces. Instead, the container looked like it had been placed there recently. How long had it been here? And more importantly, why? The team discussed their options. Leaving potential hazardous material on the ocean floor wasn't an option. They had to investigate, but something about this container felt different. Why was it sealed so thoroughly? Why did it appear so clean? George ordered the recovery operation to begin. The drone attached cables to the container's lifting points. As the crane engaged, the cables went taut. The weight was far greater than expected for an empty container. The engineering team quickly recalculated their lifting capacity. Whatever was inside this container, it wasn't supposed to be this heavy. The winch motors strained against the load. Minutes stretched into hours as the container slowly rose through the water. The crew worked in tense silence, monitoring every meter of the ascent. One wrong move could send their discovery plunging back into the abyss. Finally, the container breached the surface. Water cascaded from its sealed surfaces as the crane swung it over the deck. The crew stepped back, giving the massive object space as it was lowered onto the ship. The thud of metal on metal echoed across the deck as the container settled. Up close, the container's modifications became apparent. The seals around the doors were industrial grade, designed to keep water out. This wasn't standard shipping equipment. Someone had specifically engineered this container for long-term submersion. But who would go to such lengths, and why? The ship's engineer approached with cutting tools. The lock was heavy-duty, another sign that this was no ordinary cargo container. Sparks flew as the metal finally gave way. The doors were still firmly sealed by water pressure. It took 4 crew members to finally wrench the doors open. The sound of rushing air filled the deck as the seal broke. Then came the silence. A silence so complete, it seemed to swallow all other sounds. The crew stood frozen, staring at what lay before them. This was no cargo hold. This was something else entirely, something that sent chills down their spines. Inside, a small living space had been carefully constructed. A bed was bolted to one wall, its restraints suggesting it was meant to stay secure even in rough seas. A table was firmly attached to the floor, with a chair chained nearby. The implications of these restraints began to dawn on the crew. Personal belongings were scattered throughout the space, clothes folded neatly in a corner, basic toiletries arranged on a small shelf. Everything secured, everything planned. This wasn't a temporary transport solution. This was designed for extended habitation. But it was the walls that drew everyone's attention. Children's drawings covered the metal surfaces, colorful pieces of hope pinned carefully in this dark space. Pictures of houses with smoking chimneys, families holding hands under bright suns, trees with birds perched in their branches. The innocent artwork stood in stark contrast to the grim reality of the space. The crew began documenting everything methodically. Each item told part of a story they weren't sure they wanted to understand. In one corner, partially hidden behind a panel, they found a small wooden box. Inside the box lay a collection of photographs. A family smiled back at them. A father with kind eyes, a mother holding a baby, and a young girl with pigtails. They were standing in front of a small house, looking hopeful, looking forward to a future they thought they were moving toward. George noticed something else in the box. Behind the photos, a sealed plastic bag contained several pages of handwritten text. His hands shook as he carefully opened the watertight packaging. The letter inside would change everything. As George began to read, the full horror of what they had discovered became clear. He had to step away, taking several deep breaths before he could continue. The other crew members watched in concern as their usually composed captain struggled to maintain his composure. The letter told a story of desperation and betrayal. The family had sold their home, their possessions, everything they owned. They had paid what they thought was a legitimate migration service, promised safe passage to a new life. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a nightmare. The container had been their prison aboard a cargo ship. They weren't alone. Other families were trapped in similar containers, moved around the vessel to avoid detection during port inspections. The father wrote of how they could hear children crying in nearby containers, but were never allowed to see them. They were forced to work on the ship, brought out at night when the risk of detection was lowest. The children's drawings were their only connection to the world of light and color they had left behind. Each picture represented a dream of freedom they refused to let die. The father's final paragraphs detailed their escape plan. The family had been observing the ship's routine for weeks. They had noticed a rescue boat stored near their container, and the father had managed to get his hands on a set of keys during one of his forced work shifts. That night, when the guards changed shifts, they would make their attempt. The letter included critical information, coordinates, the ship's name, details about the criminal operation. The last words were hastily written. "We're going now. If someone finds this, please help the others." Then nothing more. The letter ended there, evidence of an escape attempt, but no clue to its outcome. George immediately contacted maritime authorities. When Coast Guard teams boarded the Stellar Dawn, they found 12 other families trapped in similar containers. The ship's logs revealed something else. A night, 6 months ago, when they had reported a lost cargo incident in rough seas. The coordinates matched where George's team had found the container. The crew's interrogation painted several possible scenarios. Some mentioned a container being knocked loose during a storm. Others spoke of hearing commotion one night during a guard shift change. A few remembered seeing a rescue boat with broken chains the next morning. Had the family attempted to use the rescue boat, only to have something go wrong in the rough seas? Had the ship's crew discovered their escape attempt and deliberately cut the container loose? Or had they managed to reach the rescue boat, leaving the container to sink and create a false trail? The ship's crew was arrested and the other families were freed. But of the family who wrote the letter, the father with kind eyes, the mother with her baby, and the little girl who drew pictures of hope, there was no trace. Today, one of the children's drawings hangs in George's cabin, a simple picture of a family holding hands under a bright sun. Looking at it, he often wonders about their fate. Did their daring escape succeed? Did they find freedom somewhere, starting a new life away from their captors? Or did something go wrong that night, leading their container to its resting place on the ocean floor? What do you think happened during that night at sea? Did the family make it to freedom, or did their brave bid for a better life end differently? Share your theories in the comments below.